To receive credit for a certificate of completion for ticket dismissal and/or an insurance discount, you must complete the registration process at WirelessDefensiveDriving.com as required by the Texas Education Agency. You may continue to access this information for entertainment purposes only, but unless you register, you will not receive credit or a certificate for insurance or ticket dismissal.
The following presentation is brought to you by WirelessDefensiveDriving.com.
And we're back. Hello, panel, and welcome back as we begin our unit about driving emergencies. How is everybody?
I'm in a terrible mood because my head hurts. I don't know whether it's allergies or what, but I have a headache. Does anybody have any ibuprofen or something?
Oh, wait a second. I've got some acetaminophen in my purse.
Oh, thank you. You're saving my life. And I hope we're talking about something happy and peppy today.
Well, I'm very sorry to announce that today's first topic is collision traps.
Oh, sorry, Judy.
And more specifically, first, head-on collision.
Oh, that is not the topic. You have got to be kidding me.
Kathy, please give her that medicine because this is an important topic. Tony, while the ladies are dealing with aspirin, can you tell me the definition of a head-on collision?
Well, when the front end of two vehicles hit each other.
Simple but true. Simple but deadly. This type of accident results in the highest number of fatal crashes because of the combined forces are so high.
And that makes sense. If two cars hit head-on and each one of them is traveling 50 miles per hour, their combined speed is 100 miles per hour. I'm thinking I'm right about this.
Your thinking's exactly right. The reason for this, a law of physics called momentum conservation. It holds that in a collision occurring between car 1 and car 2, the total momentum of the two vehicles before the collision is equal to the total momentum of the two vehicles after the collision.
Other than somebody just falling asleep at the wheel and drifting over, when can this happen?
Head-on crashes often occur when drivers are passing, but they can also be caused by driver inattention.
Is the damage less if the cars are going slower?
Well, yes, but it depends on the weight of each vehicle involved in the crash. So if the smaller car hits a truck head-on, then the car will likely be totaled because the truck weighed more than the car. If you mix the speed with the weight of the truck, you have a massive collision for the car. Judy, you open for business yet?
Yes, I'm here. I'm doing a little better, actually.
Well, good. All right. What's a factor that could decrease drivers' likelihood of surviving a head-on crash?
Not being alert for some reason.
Well, that's bad, of course, but not really where I was headed.
Oh, I bet it's the seatbelt.
And that's right.
Yeah.
The purpose of the seatbelt is to restrain the driver in the event of a crash. So if you take that out of the equation, you may or may not survive.
You know, I've been thinking about all this information we're going over, and lots of it's just common sense. I'm wondering, though, isn't some of this just fate? I mean, can you really prevent all car wrecks?
That's a good question, and the answer is, of course not. Even the best defensive driving classes and the best split-second decisions may not prevent you from becoming the victim of a life-threatening auto accident. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the annual number of fatal collisions hovers around 40,000.
Oh, that is high.
That is really scary.
Well, it can be. As a driver, you should continually educate yourself, be attentive on the road, and have self-control when you drive so you're more prepared to survive an auto accident should you have one.
But what can we do? I mean, other than taking this course every few months?
Well, you should start by preparing yourself mentally every time you get on the road. In most cases, you'll have very little time to decide on a course of action when you are faced with oncoming collision. So it's important to stay focused. Turn off your cell phone, put away your hairbrush, and turn down the radio. Be mindfully present when you're driving, not distracted.
I like that phrase, mindfully present.
Well, thank you. Mental preparation aside, what else can drivers do to reduce their risks of having a collision?
Well, we should make sure our cars are in good shape. Maybe get a mechanic to test and service our seatbelts and other safety systems now and then.
That's right. Actually, it's best to have them checked each year.
That doesn't sound too tough to do.
Nope. Airbags and seatbelts save countless lives each year, but only if they're working properly. Oh, and if you buy a used car, be sure to have the integrity of the safety systems evaluated before you begin to drive the car regularly.
For that matter, you could have the rest of your car checked out, couldn't you? I mean, if your brakes aren't working or something, that could put you at high risk too, right?
Absolutely. Service your brakes, tires, transmission, and suspension systems according to your dealer recommendations, and sooner if you suspect a problem. Your car will only react as well as its systems are maintained. Driving with worn brakes and bald tires may cause an accident to become serious or even fatal. So, Judy, headache gone?
You know, it is the power of acetaminophen and Dr. Pepper.
And that's good, because I feel a game coming on.
Okay,
Time for a mini lightning round.
Woohoo, bring it. I feel like a competitor today.
You do look like you have the eye of the tiger.
Okay. I'll ask a question. Whoever knows the answer, just jump right in. Ready? Here's the first question. If a crash is unavoidable, where should your hands be on the steering wheel?
At 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock.
That's right. Now, do you remain upright, bracing yourself for the collision, or do you allow your body to go limp?
You let your body go limp. That way you won't be as sore.
Nope, sorry. But, well, used to be the thinking. Now we're told to remain upright and brace ourselves. You need your muscle tone and rigidity to protect your organs, spinal discs, and skeletal system.
Wow, I didn't realize that was the new advice.
Yep.
Huh,
It's better to suffer some sore muscles than have a ruptured spleen or a spinal fracture.
got it. I never knew how anybody could relax and let their muscles go floppy when they were face to face with an SUV anyway.
Panel. Following a collision, should you stay in the car or get out?
You should get out if you can walk, and you should run if you smell smoke or see flames coming in case something's about to explode.
That's right. Your survival may depend on how fast you get yourself out of the car and away from the accident scene. What about if your car is headed toward water?
You should get out ASAP.
And why is that?
Because once a car sinks below the water's surface, the doors and windows become almost impossible to open because of the water pressure.
What if it's stuck?
Kick it out and swim for it?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, next. What about ducking toward the steering wheel when you're about to collide?
You should duck down behind it to protect your head.
Oh, no, sorry. But you said it with such conviction.
Yes,
Thanks,
you
I
did.
wasn't sure.
Okay, anybody?
Well, obviously the answer is no, you shouldn't, but I can't think why not. I mean, it seems like you would want to be protected.
Well, if you duck behind the wheel on impact, your head may strike the steering wheel and knock you unconscious. Also, if you have airbags, you could really get a burn from the airbag explosion or other damage if the airbag hits your face.
I had a bad burn on my neck from an airbag once. A guy who was late to a wedding T-boned me on New Year's Day.
And that brings me to my next question. How far away from the steering wheel should you sit if you have airbags?
1.5 feet. I'm trying to think about how far my arms are outstretched.
Well, that's sort of right. Tell me how many inches at least?
At least a foot?
At least 10 inches is a recommended distance, and I'm sorry, I set that up confusingly.
What's the danger if you're closer?
Well, if you're seated closer, the airbag could break your ribs or cause lung damage or other serious internal conditions. If you're too short to reach the pedals without moving the seat forward, pedal extenders are available. All right, next question. Where should your headrest be relative to your head?
Just above your ears.
Exactly right. If it's too low, you're at risk for serious cervical damage when your head hits it, and actually, that could be fatal. Now, about your seat belt. What about tucking the chest harness behind your back?
Not a good idea. If you only have the lap belt, you could really hurt yourself if you have a wreck.
That's correct. Your spine is at great risk. Okay, you know you're going to crash. What's the first thing you should do?
You mean after having a word with the man upstairs?
Okay. Then what's the second thing you should do?
I'd say slow down. Everything's worse if you're going fast.
Exactly right. Next.
Slam on the brake.
No.
Steer to the right.
Yes. Steer as far to the right as possible. If necessary, drive onto the shoulder or completely off the road. Sideswipe a car or another obstacle reduces the force of impact. And with that, we're through with head-on collisions and moving on to rear-end collisions.
Oh, I think my head is starting to hurt again.
Okay. Then we'll discuss it for a few minutes and leave the competition behind for a while. Now, this is serious business, though, because rear-end collisions are the most common type of car crash in the United States. Out of almost 6.3 million total accidents, about 2.5 million are rear-enders.
I know you're going to ask us how this kind of crash happens, and I can tell you one way right now. People who are in front of me on the road and suddenly slam on their brake.
Oh,
now,
man.
I understand if some pedestrian is crossing the street or something, but please, drivers of America, please don't get in front of me and then slow down or stop.
You're right, Kathy.
Just saying.
That's one thing that can happen. Now, on the other hand, sometimes the Kathy car behind speeds up in a hurry, such as when she's leaving an intersection, causing the Kathy car to ram the other slower car from behind.
I would never do that. I'm a safe and cautious driver.
That's good. Because as a rule of thumb, crashing into another vehicle is equivalent to crashing into a rigid surface, like a wall, at half the speed. Now, this means that rear-ending a stopped vehicle while going 30 miles an hour is equivalent, in terms of forces, to crashing into a wall at 15 miles an hour. Same is true for the vehicle crashed into.
Is it true that the driver being hit from behind is usually considered not to be the one at fault, even if he or she is going so slow the other driver can't help but hit him or her? Does that make sense? That was really a confusing sentence.
But I get what you're saying, and yes, the driver of the car that rear-ends the other car is almost always considered to be at fault due to not being within stopping distance or not paying attention. Now, An exception to that rule comes into play if the rear-ended vehicle is in reverse gear.
Got it.
Okay, so what are some strategies to avoid being hit from behind?
Well, you should keep an eye on what's going on behind you. Make sure your mirrors, inside and out, are adjusted, and look at them a lot. Also, keep your rear window clean so you can see out.
Good thoughts. Kathy, any other ideas?
Well, if somebody's pretty close on your tail, you can flash your brake lights, just tap them a little when you're standing, moving slowly, or getting ready to stop.
That's right. As we were discussing earlier, make sure your brakes are working by having them checked regularly. And keep your brake lights clear of dirt and snow if you visit northern friends. What else?
Signal before you turn and change lanes.
Yes, and keep pace with traffic when speed limits and road weather conditions permit.
How can you get rid of a tailgater? I hate it when somebody is just so close behind me I can hardly see their grill. It makes me nervous, and I'm sure I'm not paying as close of attention to my driving as I should be.
You should slow down gradually by removing your foot from the gas. If the tailgater doesn't move, change lanes safely. Be really careful when you're slowing down or changing lanes, and don't be like Judy and let the tailgater distract you. Other strategies to avoid being rear-ended?
You could stay out of other drivers' blind spots.
Oh, that's a good one. If you're in a car's blind spot and that car suddenly swerves into your lane, you may have to really brake hard, which could leave you exposed to rear-end collision.
Well, what's the rule about if your vehicle stalls and you can't move it out of the road?
I got this one. I think you're supposed to raise your hood and then do everything you can to help the other people see your car. Turn on your emergency flashers, put out flares and reflective markers if you have some. Then get out of traffic and wait for help.
Thank heavens for cell phones.
Amen. Here are a few things I want everyone to think about that may help them keep from being hit from behind. You should brake early and pay attention to the traffic flow. And by that, I mean at 40 miles an hour. A vehicle travels 60 feet in 1 second, meaning that even short distances can make a difference. What else? Something about vision.
Everyone should use good vision habits, like don't follow so closely that you can't see the road ahead. When you can, look through the window of the car in front of you to see the road ahead, and look over the top of your car when you're on a hill.
Good answers. Others?
Well, common sense would tell us to look for things ahead on the road that could cause the driver ahead of you to stop. Their problem could magically become your problem a second or two later.
Also good. Other ideas?
Nothing's coming to mind.
We should, we did that one already.
I can't think of anything else, except maybe paying attention to weather.
That's where I was headed.
Yay.
You should stay aware of your ability to swerve to the right on icy roads. Even though ice may make it impossible to stop in time, you often can swerve to the right and avoid the car in front of you. I know you all know this, but you should never swerve to the left. You're inviting a head-on collision and, of course, increase your follow distance to accommodate road and bad weather conditions. Now, here's a question. Who can tell me some of the danger signals that you may be about to have a rear-end collision?
Well, brake lights on the vehicle in front of you. If you see them light up, you should get your foot off the gas pedal and be ready to hit your brakes.
That's right. Others?
Problems in other lanes other than the one you're driving in?
Good one. You should watch for brake lights in slowing traffic in lanes next to yours and expect drivers to swerve quickly into your lane. One more danger sign. Anyone?
Well, maybe if the person ahead of you seems like they're slowing, but they're not necessarily applying their brakes.
Right. You should be on the lookout for diminishing distance between you and the driver ahead. Okay, you guys did a good job of that topic. Now, we're moving on to side collisions, which are, believe it or not, more likely to be fatal than front or rear end accidents of similar force. Why is that, Judy?
Well, let's see. Because the sides of cars provide less padding or protection than the front or back?
I am so impressed. That is exactly right.
I think my headache gave me psychic powers.
However, you happen to know you're right. The side of the vehicle is usually far less protected than the front of the rear, and there's less protection for the people inside. Although side airbags can help somewhat, they offer little help in a serious broadside crash. This type of crash is usually caused by one car not yielding the right-of-way, and it's a bad crash to have.
Isn't it true that backseat passengers are just as vulnerable if somebody T-bones you?
You're right. In fact, statistics show that passenger victims often survive side impact collisions but suffer severe injuries, including traumatic brain injuries and spinal cord injuries and whiplash or neck injuries and broken bones. It's not fun. All right, so quick, panel. Tell me what to consider doing to avoid being hit.
Be careful when crossing intersections.
Correct. The numbers show that side collisions usually happen in intersections, especially ones without traffic signals. When you're crossing an intersection, what should you do?
Look both directions twice.
Good. What else, Tony?
Always check your car's brakes. If your brakes can't completely stop you, you may have a terrible wreck.
Good. Others, Judy?
Oh, I knew you were going to call on me. I don't know of one. Oh, wait, yes I do. Follow traffic regulations and signals.
Of course, common sense. Most intersections have traffic signals to prevent confusion among drivers. Make sure you follow them. They were put there to save your life.
You should always look for pickups and trucks with trailers.
Yes, ma'am. Trailers often cause collisions at intersections. This is because there are drivers who do not pay attention to them. They just step on the gas the moment they see the trailer pass by. Motorcyclists usually encounter this kind of accident.
You should also be aware that if you ever do have an accident that likely caused injury or death to another person, you have to remain at the scene. Do whatever you can to aid the injured people. But if you leave the scene and someone dies or you don't render aid, 2 to 20 years in prison with a possible fine up to $10,000.
Wow, Kathy, aren't you just a fountain spewing out waves of knowledge? All right, go ahead and read this part to them.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking about off-road recovery and controlling your car in special situations. Everybody got that?
Yes, Miss Whiteman.
Very nice. Now, the one basic rule that applies in all driving situations, and especially in emergency situations, is think before you act. For instance, if your car goes into a skid, first, what causes skids?
When your tires lose their grip on the road surface.
And what should you do if your car starts to skid?
Don't jam on the brakes. Take your foot off the gas pedal.
Oh, good. What else?
Turn your steering wheel in the direction of the skid. As you recover control, gently straighten the wheels.
Good job, everyone. Okay, Kathy, take back over.
As you wish.
You can avoid a skid if you slow down when the road and weather conditions are poor. Also, check your tires because bad tires are dangerous. Okay, moving on to running off the pavement.
Is that like running off at the mouth?
Sort of, except it's a car instead of your mouth. All right. What should you do if you run off the pavement?
I think it's another time that you should not brake hard and fast. Grip the steering wheel tightly and take your foot off the gas pedal.
And I think you should use your brakes carefully and don't try to swing back onto the pavement.
Right, you both are. You should wait until you've slowed down, then check the traffic behind you and carefully drive back onto the pavement.
Hey, what are you supposed to do if you have a flat tire or a blowout? I've heard different things.
Well, the best thing to do to prevent tire trouble is by checking the air pressure in your tires frequently and when the tires are cool. But if you do have a blowout, don't slam on the brakes. Take your foot off the gas and gently apply the brakes. If you have room and there's no traffic, let your car slow down on its own, then steer straight ahead to a stop.
Got it. But what if your brakes fail? I've never had that happen, but you never know. That doesn't mean it won't.
Well, if you apply your brakes and they seem to be failing, and this is tough, don't panic. Just take your foot off the gas and remember your parking brake and shift into a lower gear. But apply the parking brake cautiously so you don't lock up your brakes and throw your car into a skid.
It seems like all of us are going to have to make drastic maneuvers at some point in our driving lives to avoid having a collision. I think your reflexes just kick in and you make whatever snap decision you will to put you in the path of least resistance.
But what if your power steering just quits? I've never had that happen either, but I'm...
Well, and it's probably not going to happen, at least not all at once. If there's a problem, your power steering will become gradually tougher, which can be a warning.
But what if it does?
Well, use all your strength to turn the wheel and stop the car as soon as possible. In case the reason for power steering failure is the engine stalling, your hydraulic brakes will also have failed. You may need to really stand on those brakes to stop the car. Or you may have to use some of the brake failure techniques we discussed earlier, such as downshifting or applying the emergency brake.
Okay, I guess that's all the worst-case scenarios I can think of.
Good, you were making me nervous.
I've got one more. What if your whole car loses power?
Oh, y'all are wearing me out.
No, that's good to discuss some of these things because, although they are rare, they surely could happen. If you have total failure of all components of your car, lights, inside and out, brakes, steering, and so on, everything, shift into neutral and get off the road as quickly and safely as possible.
Well, won't your car suddenly start to slow down on its own?
Well, yes, and if it's in neutral, it will coast instead of the engine quickly slowing the wheels to a stop. Once you've gotten off the road, use your handbrake to gradually stop the car.
What's likely to cause that?
Oh, there's a range of causes for total power failure, and it's extensive, and it will probably require a qualified mechanic to find your problem.
Well, as I've said many times, thank goodness for cell phones.
And let's talk about other things that can go wrong and what to do about them. All right, for instance, lights can totally go out due to a burned out fuse, a fused wire, or a loose battery cable. Now, if your lights go out, pull over, and take care of the problem before proceeding.
How? I don't know the first thing about what to do if my lights go out.
Well, you can start by checking your owner's manual to find out where your fuse panel is.
Oh.
And always carry spare fuses.
You know, I've done this before. It's not hard. You have to find your fuse panel and figure out which is the fuse for your lights. I keep a flashlight in my glove compartment for stuff just like this.
Then what?
Well, replace the blown fuse with a good new one. The end. Happy motoring.
Wait, though. If the new fuse doesn't solve the problem, or if it blows, your problem is more serious and requires a repair. Again, find your handy mechanic.
What about that problem I've been seeing in the news? Gas pedal sticking.
Oh, yeah.
There have been a few instances of this lately, and one car manufacturer even had a recall. If your accelerator pedal sticks, here's what you can do. Wait. What is it, Mr. Raffone?
Chuck, we have a young lady named Bridget on line 1 that would like to speak with you.
Hello, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello? Is this, the defensive driving deal?
It is.
Well, I'm supposed to write a report for my driver's ed class about the stuff y'all are talking about right now, and I thought I'd get extra credit if I called in.
They have to write reports in driver's ed now? What times are these?
I know, right? It's a pain. But I think I do know some stuff about pedal sticking. Can I say it?
Oh, you bet.
Okay, well, if you have a lot of space between you and the rest of the traffic, you're supposed to tap your gas pedal lightly a few times to see if it will spring back to its normal position. But if it doesn't, pull the pedal up with the toe of your shoe. But don't reach down with your hand to do it. Surely nobody is that stupid. But somebody must have done it once, or they wouldn't tell us in class not to.
Oh, the world is full of fools.
I know, right? Okay, there's more. If you have to slow down or stop quickly, turn your motor off, your ignition and brake, and turn the key to off, not lock. How am I doing?
So far, great.
Should I keep going?
Panel, is it okay with you?
Hey, go, not a problem. Go on.
Go.
Okay, well, if you have power steering and power brakes and you turn off the ignition, you're really going to have to put some muscle behind turning and stopping. But don't pump the brakes. Slow down and guide your car off the roadway.
So then you've come to a stop and you say, woohoo! And then what?
Well, you should get out and look for the problem that was causing your pedal to stick. Sometimes the floor mat or rug binds it up, or rather down. But if this isn't the deal, and you know something about engines, look inside the engine compartment and check the accelerator linkage. Some of the parts may be stuck and binding, and a little oil, like from the oil dipstick, could solve the problem. But if you don't want to be putting your head underneath your hood and dripping dipstick oil all around, just get help. And get a professional to correct whatever's wrong.
And girl, way to go.
Bridget,
She did
if
it.
you don't get extra credit, you tell your teacher to call me.
I know, right? Okay, bye. Thanks.
Okay, and she knew her stuff. Okay, back to the sticking gas pedal, though. Once the problem is corrected, make sure before you drive the vehicle, apply the emergency brake firmly, put the gear in park or neutral, and start the engine. Press the accelerator a few times to make sure it returns to its normal position after you remove your foot. Then, put the car in gear and try giving it gas just a few times before releasing the parking brake.
That was all interesting. They made noises about recalling my SUV recently for a sticking pedal, but it checked out just fine.
Good to hear. Okay, moving on to another emergency.
What on earth is left? We've had brakes failing, gas pedal
we
sticking,
have.
power going out, lights going off.
But we haven't had a fire yet.
No, something else to worry about.
Well, of course, like most of these things, it's not likely. It would sure be bad if you had a vehicle fire and didn't know what to do about it. A fire can be caused by a fault in the electrical system or by leakage in the fuel system that may cause raw gas to leak onto a hot engine.
Not good.
No, seriously not good. So, what do you do if there's a fire in your car?
Well, call me Mrs. Obvious Answer, but I think you would pull over and get the heck out of Dodge. Or Mercury or Nissan. See, I made a little Dodge joke.
And I caught that American-made fun. So,
Yeah.
yes, you pull over, and then what? Tony?
You turn off the ignition and get out of the car in some safe way. But I don't think I know how you're supposed to put out the fire, or whether you're just supposed to run away in case it explodes.
Well, you should carry a fire extinguisher in your car at all times. And you should start trying to put the fire out with that. Now, how many of you all have fire extinguishers in your car?
For those of you scoring at home, none of us raised his or her hand.
I see. Well, you can also throw dirt on it or use a heavy cloth to cover it.
I guess you could try to flag down a motorist who may have a fire extinguisher.
It can't hurt to try. Getting back to your explosion question, Tony, fires in the rear of the vehicle are most hazardous because of the location of the gas tank and, in fact, the possibility of an explosion. If you see smoke or flames coming from the rear of the vehicle, get everybody out of the car and stay far away.
Well, so what if it's in the front, under the hood?
Well, you should only raise the hood if it's absolutely necessary, and be very careful. When you raise the hood, the sudden rush of oxygen will cause the fire to flash up, and use a rag to cover your hands so you don't get burned.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm guessing we're supposed to call the fire department.
Yes, and don't try to drive the vehicle until the cause of the blaze is determined and the problem corrected. Okay, moving on to windshield wiper failure.
I don't think my wipers have ever actually failed, but I sure have had some aggravating little leaf particles under my blades before, and always right in front of my eyes.
Well, they can fail, however, and it can happen when you need them most, like when it's raining or snowing. If you have the disappearing type wipers, you should check the opening in front of your windshield periodically, most often in the fall and the winter, and remove leaves, twigs, snow, ice.
What if you have something go wrong with your wipers on the highway, like it's loose or the motor stops moving the wipers or it flies off? I mean, that could happen, couldn't it?
Well, then you should make sure it's safe to get off the highway and see if you can correct the problem. I mean, stick your head out the window to see if it's necessary.
But I guess it's like everything else. If you can't see what the problem is or you can't fix it yourself, wait until the rain or snow is let up and then head for some place to get it fixed.
That's right. If it's impractical to wait, then you'll have to call for help. What about your hood popping up? Ever have that happen?
Oh, my gosh. Imagine how scary that would be.
Well, it is scary. The failure of hood latch or improper closure of the hood can result in hood popping open while you're driving, blocking your view of the road.
Now, I read somewhere that this problem doesn't turn up as much in cars later than about 1969 or so. And, I mean, really, how many pre-1969 cars can there be on the road?
Well, Volkswagen.
Oh, yeah, right, Volkswagen.
Well, it is true that cars manufactured after 1969 don't have flying up hoods nearly as much as older cars. But should it happen, don't panic and don't panic stop. Stick your head out the window or watch the road through the gap at the bottom of the open hood and ease the vehicle off to the right or the left, depending on which lane of traffic you're traveling in and which is safe.
Then what do? Brake?
Yes, you brake slowly, turn on your emergency flashers, then give a hand signal to indicate that you're going to stop. Now, of course, you can't get out of the car because of a bridge or guardrail, for instance, then don't leave your vehicle. Wait until the traffic is cleared and then proceed with caution to the nearest point at which you can safely exit. And then stop and pop the hood back down. Okay, new emergency. Ready to feel itchy? We're going to talk about insects.
Oh, no. I hate bugs. I hate them in my house and in my car and in the world.
Well, you should especially hate them in your car because accidents have been caused when drivers lose control of the vehicles because they're trying to get rid of flies, bees, the yellow jackets, wasps, or other insects that have gotten into the car.
Oh, I am starting to feel itchy.
Oh, me too. I hate bugs.
Let's take back the power bugs have taken from us by discussing some
Yeah.
strategies for dealing with them. Okay, Tony.
I guess the main thing is to avoid getting frantic and trying to kill it while you drive. You should pull off, turn off the engine, and then get rid of the insect.
And that's right. What you should realize is that even if you get stung, a bee or a wasp sting is less serious than what could happen if you have a serious accident. Okay, now, what should you do if an insect or some dirt flies into one of your eyes?
Oh, no. Now there are bugs in our eyes. I didn't think this unit could get any worse.
I guess you could close that one eye and pull off the road before you try to get the foreign matter from your eye. Don't try to clear your eye while driving.
Yes, which is right. Okay, well, what if you get something in both eyes?
I can't tell you how my eyes are watering right now.
I guess you should try to keep them open even if it's uncomfortable until you can pull over and safely clear them before they swell shut.
Exactly what you should do. Oh, and as a side note, animals loose in the front seat can also interfere with attention, visibility, steering, and braking. So take someone along when it's time to take Fido or Fifi to the vet.
Thank you. Something to think about that doesn't give me the creeps or make my eyes water.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought you were allergic to cats.
Well, I am, but I still think they're cute.
Okay, now that's enough for the birds and the bees. Now, we're moving on to an overheated engine. There are 5 things that can cause an engine to overheat. Who knows one of them?
A leak in the radiator.
Yes, others.
Hoses letting coolant leak out.
Good.
How about a faulty water pump? Seems like I've replaced a water pump in every car I have ever owned.
Yes, ma'am. Faulty water pumps can cause overheated engines. Judy.
Oh, they said mine already.
Oh, I know another one. A broken fan belt.
I've replaced fan belts since I've been driving too.
That's right. And there's one more. One more. Anyone?
No, that's all. I can't remember.
Me too.
A bad thermostat.
Huh, I don't guess I've ever had a thermostat go bad.
Me either. Although mine will probably go out now on the way home.
It will.
If your temperature gauge moves to the hot position, it's time to do something, all you drivers. And then what's the first thing?
Turn that AC off.
That's correct. Now, if you notice steam or liquid being emitted from the front of your vehicle, it's a definite indication the vehicle is overheating. If possible, pull off the road, turn off your engine, and let it cool down before proceeding. What should you do if you're in stop and go or in slow-moving traffic?
Shift into neutral while you're stopped.
Correct. While you're stopped, a slight pressure on the accelerator pedal may reduce overheating by the action of the fan and the coolant in the radiator. Now, if none of these things work, what should you do? Now, this is a weird one.
Oh, I know this one. You should turn on your heater.
Oh, that can't be right. Your car's already overheating.
It is, though. I forget why, but that's what you do, right, Chuck?
Believe it or not, yes, you turn on your car heater and roll down the windows. And this reduces the engine's temperature by increasing radiator capacity and draws the heat off the engine. So, you pull off the road, look for the problem. What do you not do no matter what?
Do not pop off that radiator cap until the engine is cooled or the steam and liquid has stopped coming out.
That is exactly right. Did everybody get that?
Yes.
We got it.
Also, you should never pour cold water into or onto an overheated engine.
And that's right, too. It can crack your engine block. Instead, you should wait until the engine is cooled, remove the radiator cap, and check the coolant level. Now, if your car has a coolant recovery system, which is that little plastic jug with an overflow hose from the radiator, is what it goes into, check the coolant level at that point. When the radiator cools, the overflow should return to the radiator.
Then you look for leaks or breaks in the radiator, right?
Yes, along with the coolant recovery system or in the hoses, including heater and radiator hoses. Now, what's the all-purpose thing you can use to temporarily stop a leak in a hose until you can get to a service facility to have it repaired?
Gum?
No, not gum.
Duct tape?
Yes, Kathy, duct tape. Good. Oh, gracious.
I
Gum.
was just kidding.
That's a relief.
Kind of.
If the hose is split or ruptured near the end, sometimes you can remove the hose end by using a screwdriver or pair of pliers. Then cut off the damaged section, replace the hose, unless it's too short already.
And then you replace the lost fluid, right? If you can get some water.
Yes, the best thing to do is drive to a surface facility and have the repair done properly. Now, if you're able to make temporary repairs so that you can drive to a shop, don't move the car until the engine is cooled down. Be sure to warn the mechanic that engine has been overheated so he can take precautions to make sure he's not burned or scalded.
Unless he has burned or scalded you with some big fee last time he did some little repair.
Yes,
Oh, now, she does not mean that.
Heavens, no.
Okay, panel. Moving on to our next emergency. What is the single worst thing that can destroy your engine faster than any other kind of trouble?
Oh, it's got to be driving with no oil.
That's exactly right. A sudden loss of oil pressure can result in extensive damage to your vehicle's engine as well as highway breakdown. If your oil pressure light doesn't go out when the engine is running, or if it comes on while you are driving, you have trouble.
It can be a couple of things, I think. You may not have enough oil in your engine, or your oil pump may be bad and not pumping oil through the engine.
And that's right. So here's the rule. If the oil pressure light comes on and stays on, pull off the road. Turn off the ignition and check the oil.
What if it's low? Is it bad to limp on to a service station?
You should carry a bottle of oil in your trunk and add it before you go any further. And then it's okay to drive cautiously for a few miles to the nearest service facility, but no further. Okay, moving on, which you won't be if you have the following emergency. A dropped drive shaft.
I don't even know what that is. A dropped drive shaft?
I'm glad you said that. I never heard of that either.
Oh, yes, you have. In vehicles with rear-wheel drive, it's the long tubular thing underneath the car that is connected to the transmission on one end and to the differential on the other. It's why you have a hump down the middle of the interior.
Oh, well, why didn't you say so? The differential.
I feel like such a girl. What does it do?
Okay, stop me if I'm wrong, Chuck, but I think it basically drives the wheels to move the car along.
Yeah, that's right. Drive power will be lost and the vehicle cannot be driven until the drive shaft is repaired. If the front universal joint fails, the faster the vehicle is moving, the greater the danger, because the front of the drive shaft can drop and dig into the pavement, lift up the rear end of the vehicle, and flip it over.
Yikes. I never even heard of this before today, and now I find out it's something that can kill me.
Well, it can be really dangerous. Your first and most important precaution is to slow down before pulling off the road and prevent the drivetrain from digging into the shoulder. To reduce the chance of this happening, Have your service facility examine and lubricate the universal joints and check for possible looseness.
Oh, yeah. Well, those universal joints will talk to you before they fail completely. They'll make some noise, and they usually vibrate the whole car at any speed.
And that's right. If you ever hear a dragging noise under your vehicle, slow down and pull off the road. Look for the problem. If your muffler or tailpipe is dragging, you may be able to temporarily raise them using a piece of wire, obviously nothing flammable, to hold them in place. But if it's the drive shaft, the vehicle won't move, and you will have to get assistance.
Judy and I are now enlightened about drive shafts.
And aren't you proud of us for not making a single nasty joke?
Ladies, next section. Loss of lug nut.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Don't break your record.
I think of wheel wobbles, or you hear a rattling noise coming from the wheels, especially when you're going slow if you have a loose lug nut or one has come off and the rattling is inside the hub.
And you are right. This is caused by the improper tightening of the nuts. When a tire is replaced by a faulty lug nut bolt threads, it won't retain the lug nuts tightly. All right, game time. Panelists, which of these is something you should not do if you hear these rattling sounds or feel wobbling wheel?
Okay.
A, take care of this problem immediately before you lose a wheel. B, pull off the road. C, remove the hubcaps or wheel covers. Check the tightness of all the lug nuts and tighten the nuts that may be loose. D, turn on your heater.
That's a little bit insulting, but I'll play along. You should, D, not turn on your heater if you have a loose lug nut. D, the answer is D.
And of course, that is right. All right. Next question. If the lug nuts are tight, the sound could be caused by A, a faulty or burned out bearing, and caution should be taken in driving to the nearest service facility for repairs. B, some music on a hip-hop station. C, a faulty or burned out bearing, but you can probably drive on it for another week or so.
I'm going to say choice A, faulty or burned out bearing, and you should get yourself to a gas station forthwith.
Ooh, how Shakespearean.
Just trying to share a little culture.
And that's the correct answer. Now, if you've already lost more than one nut from a wheel, what should you do? A, nothing. You'll be fine. B, repair it with gum.
Hey.
Or C, borrow one from another wheel so you can tighten the wheels adequately and at your first opportunity replace all the missing lug nuts.
I think the answer is C, borrow, then replace, right quick.
Indeed. If two or more of the wheel studs are too badly stripped to permit retightening of these nuts, what should you do? A, drive away. B, leave the car beside the road and get help. C, use some wire.
Those all sound stupid. I think that you are just making these answers up to try to sound goofy.
I promise. The real answer's in there.
Well, it's got to be B, leave the car and go get help. Once again, I am slapping my knees and saying thank you for cell phones and AAA.
Yay! Right you are, leave the car. But the bigger picture is, have all faulty lugs or lug nuts replaced as necessary. Okay, here's the last topic for this emergency unit. Jump starting a car battery.
You know, I'm glad we're going to talk about this. I've never had to jump a car, and I don't think I would even know how to do it safely.
Well, Tony, lots of people think they know how to jump start a car's battery, but many of them really do it the wrong way. All right, now listen, everybody, and follow these suggestions. It's kind of like a 7-step program. Okay, ready? 1, clamp one cable, usually red, to the positive terminal of the dead battery. Don't let the positive cable touch anything metal other than the battery terminal. Here, Judy, read the second step.
My pleasure. Step 2, connect the other end of the positive cable, red, to the positive terminal of the good battery.
Kathy, if you please.
Step 3, connect one end of the negative cable, black, to the negative terminal of the good battery.
Tony.
Step 4, connect the other end of the negative cable, black, to metal on the engine block on the car with the dead battery. Do not connect it to the dead battery, carburetor, fuel lines, or moving parts.
Step 5, start the car with the good battery.
Step 6, start the stalled car.
And 7, remove the cables in reverse order.
Thank you, panel, and thank you, traffic offenders. And that's the end of our emergency unit.
Chuck.
Yeah?
Chuck, this is the microphone.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Raffone.
So far, you've told us that we need to keep fire extinguishers in our trunk, a can of oil, blankets for snow, rubber rafts for floods, kitty litters for traction, pantyhose for broken belts, wires for falling tail. What kind of car are we driving?
A great, big, well-equipped, monster, beautiful car.
Just wanted to get clear on that.
Mr. Phone is a smart ass.
Hello, students. Mike Raffone here to congratulate you on finishing another section. You're almost done. Only 2 more sections left. You won't have a final test after the last section because all those quiz questions you've been answering after each section is your final test. When you log on this time to take the quiz, take an extra moment after you pass the quiz and verify that the court information you entered when you registered is exactly the way it is on your ticket. If it is misspelled or incomplete, the court may not accept it, and that creates all kinds of problems and warrants no one wants. So check it out now. Good luck on the quiz and enjoy the next section.